أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد أشرف المرسلين وعلى صحبه أجمعين ومن اتبع لسنته إلى يوم الدين ما بعد فأقول لكم يا أيها الإخوة والأخوات السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Brothers and sisters, I greet you with the greeting of Islam, which is to say, may the peace and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon you. After that, inshallah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to invoke peace and blessings upon his messenger Muhammad ibn Abdullah, the last of the prophets and the chief of the messengers, and upon his companions and upon his family and upon all those who follow him until the day of judgment. Now, as to what follows, inshallah, we continue with our lessons of Al-Akhdari, Mukhtasar Al-Akhdari, the abridgment of Imam Al-Akhdari with respect to morals, purification, and prayer. The last section, alhamdulillah, was very brief but extremely beneficial, and it was a section where Imam Al-Akhdari says, لِلصَّلَاةِ نُورٌ عَظِيمٌ, that to the salah there's a tremendous prayer. He says, تُشْرِقُ بِهِ قُلُوبُ الْمُصَلِّينَ وَلَا يَنَالُهُ إِلَّا الْخَاشِعُونَ. He says that by virtue of that light, the hearts of those that pray, it radiates. The hearts of those that pray, it radiates. And he says that no one will attain that benefit except those who are humble inside of their prayer. You understand? So today, inshallah, he is the fasl on the ahwal al-salah, the manner in which the salah can be given. Before we begin, inshallah, today we heard the passing of the one known as Mufti X. He was effectively a protege of Mufti Mek, a very well-known person on social media, seemed to be very humble. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive him, and we ask that anyone that has a chance to make dua for him, recite Qul Huwallahu Ahad 11 times and make dua for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive him, to have mercy on him, and to grant him Al-Jannatul Firdaus. Ala kulli hal, today inshallah is the lesson on the Ahwal al-Salat. Al-Ahwal al-Salat is the manner in which that you can give the prayer. Right, because people are of different levels of health, and sometimes excuses come by which a person can no longer keep the prayer in the way that it is prescribed. So Imam Al-Akhdari, he describes briefly the manner in which the prayer can be given, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. He says فصل, he said للصلاة المفروضة, he says for the fard prayer سبعة أحوال مرتبة تؤدى عليها. He says for this, the obligatory prayer, there are 7 ways in which, 7 continuous ways, sequential ways, meaning that you have to go from 1, 2, 3, 4, in which they can be given. He says, أربعة منها على الوجوب. He says 4 of them, the continuity of 4 of them, meaning going from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, is wajib. You understand? He says وثلاثة على الاستحباب, and then the 3 of them after that are mustahab, they're desirable. If the person needs to sit in that manner, needs to pray in that manner. He says, أولها, the first one, the default way in which a person has to pray, he says, القيام بغير استناد, is to stand without leaning on anything. You understand? Meaning that if a person has nothing wrong with him, nothing that necessitates that he leans on something, then he should stand straight and perform the prayer as it's supposed to be given. He said, ثُمَّ الْقِيَامُ بِإِسْتِنَادٍ, then if he's not able to do that, then he should stand while leaning on something, be it a wall or a stick, or something. You understand? So ثُمَّ الْجُلُوسُ بِغَيْرِ إِسْتِنَادٍ, then if he's not able to do that, then he should sit without leaning on something. So for example, if you can sit on the ground, right? If you can sit without propping up, or on a chair without propping up on anything. He said, ثُمَّ الْجُلُوسُ بِإِسْتِنَادٍ, then if he can't do any of those, then he should sit down while propping himself on something, right? On a wall, or on the side of a wall, or a wall behind him, whatever the case might be. You understand? He says, فَالْتَرْتِيبُ, he says the continuity بين هذه الأربعة على الوجوب. He says the keeping the order between these 4, meaning you go from one to the other if you're not able to do the one that's previous to it. He says it's wajib, it's obligatory. إذا قدر على حالة منها, if he has the capacity to perform that particular means. He says وصلى بحالة دونها بطل صلاته. He says, and to pray in the way that's after it invalidates his prayer immediately. So if you're someone that can stand for prayer with no issues, and then you decide to stand while leaning on the wall, or you decide to sit down, your prayer is invalid. You understand? Now, these things are given as an excuse for people. He says, وَالثَّلَاثَةُ الَّتِي عَلَى الْإِسْتِحْبَابِ, he says, in the 3 that follow that are in a state of, that are mustahab, he says, it's there as follows: أَنْ يُصَلِّ الْعَاجِزُ عَنْ هَذِهِ الثَّلَاثَةِ الْمَذْكُورَةِ عَلَى جَنْبِهِ الْأَيْمَنِ. is that the person that is unable to pray in any of these manners, right? That he can decide that I want to the first one is desirable for him. What's most desirable, meaning that he can't sit while leaning on something, is that he prays while he's laying on his right side. Ala jambihi al-ayman, that he prays while laying on his right side. Thumma ala al-aysar. Then if he's not able to do that, it's desirable for him to pray on his left side. Thumma ala dhahrihi. If he's not able to do that, then it's better for him to pray on his. Then it's the last state is for him to pray on his back. You understand? But if فإن خالف في الثلاثة لم تبطل صلاته. But if he breaks the order within these three, it doesn't invalidate his salah, right? So he's a person that can't sit whatsoever. He's laying down, but instead of praying on his right side, which is recommended first, he decides I'm going to pray on my back. It doesn't break his salah in the way that if someone has the capacity to stand, but he decides to sit, that invalidates his salah. You understand? Now he said, والاستدناء الذي تبطل به الصلاة القادر. He said, if you want to know the istinad, the type of leaning that if a person does it, it breaks his salah. Al-qadir, if the person is able to, that's able to al-qadir ala tarkihi, that's able to leave it. هو الذي يسقط بسقوطه. You understand? هو الذي يسقط بسقوطه is that which the thing that he leans on, he would fall if that thing falls away. You know, meaning if he's leaning on a stick and he has the ability to pray without a stick, right, and he leans on the stick, the type of leaning that would invalidate his salah is that stick, if it was to go out of his hand, and he would fall from it. That's the type of leaning that he's referring to. He says, وَإِنْ كَانَ لَا يَسْقُطُ بِسُقُوطِهِ. He says, but if that thing would not, if he himself would not fall away because of the falling away of that thing, he says, فَهُوَ مَكْرُوهٌ. Then that's not really a leaning. That's not really istinad. That might be that he is, for example, edged up against the wall. So, for example, you're edged up against the wall, you're touching the wall. That doesn't count as leaning, because if that wall goes away, it's not like you're going to fall. You understand? He says, فَأَمَّا النَّافِلَ. Now, as far as supererogatory prayer, optional prayers, he says, فَيَجُوزُ لِلْقَادِرِ. It's permissible for the person that has the capacity to pray in any way that he wants, عَلَى الْقِيَامِ, that has the capacity to stand while he's praying, أَنْ يُصَلِّيَهَا جَالِسًا, that he prays it sitting down. Meaning that when you're praying in the nawafil, even though you can stand, you can decide, I'm going to sit. He says, فَهُوَ نِصْفُ أَجْرِ الْقَائِمِ. But in that case, as the Prophet ﷺ hadith illustrates, then he has half of the reward of the person that decides to stand. He says, وَيَجُوزُ, it's also permissible, أَنْ يَدْخُلَهَا جَالِسًا, that he enters the prayer sitting down, meaning that the nafil prayer, the optional prayer, that he enters it sitting down, وَيَقُومُ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ, and then he decides to stand up after that. أَوْ يَدْخُلُهَا قَائِمًا, or he enters it standing up, وَيَجْلِسَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ, and then he decides to sit down after. إِلَّا, except أَنْ يَدْخُلَهَا بِنِيَّةِ الْقِيَامِ, except that if he decides to enter the prayer with the specific intention of standing fiha, within that prayer. He says, فَيَمْتَنِعُ جُلُوسُهُ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ. Then in that case, he's sitting down would be preventable after that in the optional prayer. But even in that case, if he gets tired, he can still sit down. There's nothing wrong with that. You understand? Ala kulli hal, inshallah, we'll end it here. Jazakumullah khair, ya ikhwan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.